Presenting Benny Goodman and
There we go.
music.
Hey, everybody. Hey, Karen, Sarah, Mona, Marcia, and Marie. Hey, Luann. Hey, Martin. Hey, everybody. Hey, Paula. Hey, Christine. My place is a mess. Hey, Mary Rose. Hey, Jeanette. Gladys. Hey, Todd. Octavio. Hey, Heather. Hey, everybody. Hey, Becky. Morning, Jennifer and Nancy and Vicky. Hey, Jan. Susan.
Benny Goodman,
Hey,
ladies and
Chris.
gentlemen, the man
Hey,
with
Julius,
the
calm
torrid
down.
clarinet and the even more torrid band who
Hey,
played
Miles.
assorted rhythms, all danceable, in the urban room of the Congress Hotel in Chicago. And first of all, one of Irving Berlin's greatest hits, Blue Skies.
Hey, Cindy. Yeah, I was all set to go sledding today, but all we got was rain. There's no snow on the ground at all. I am really bummed. So is Miles. I was all set to get the sled out. Hey, Lisa. Hey, Keely. Morning, Mom. Hey, Karen. Morning, Grandma Belle. Hey, Bort. Dina and Eileen. Zap days. Oh. I still need my surgery. The dentist, the endodontist they sent me to yesterday, turned out not to be an endodontist. They probably should have told me they don't do molar root canals there when I called and said I need 2 molar root canals, or when I came in and said I'm here for my 2 molar root canals, or when they x-rayed the 2 molars that I said needed root canals. But it wasn't until after all of that. They sent me to an endodontist in the same building that was in network, but it turned out they're not really in network, so I've just been getting shuffled around and x-rayed and given doom and gloom stories about my mouth for days now. It's just been raining here, so no snow. School's closed in Georgia. I remember the first year we lived in Georgia, we got 3/4 of an inch of snow on Saturday, and schools were closed Monday and Tuesday. Again, I feel like the endodontist will give me, will have plenty of options for sedation. It being basically, being basically a surgery. Like, you see anything else you need to drill, go, just do it. I don't, whatever. Root my whole canal. I don't know. Hey, Miles. Aw. Look at this guy. Yeah, Marcia. I was just going to get the one, but then when they were first drilling to get me the crown, they said, hey, let's do this other tooth, too. And I said, oh, no, we can't fill that. You need a root canal there, too. But all right, everybody, welcome along. I was going to do some sledding today, but it's not snowing, so won't be doing that. We're going to pause. This is Benny Goodman coming to you from the Congress Hotel in Chicago. That's something I've been researching quite a bit. We're getting ready to do the big pop music talk on Chicago for Chicagoans, which is coming up this Thursday, just a couple of days from now, on the Speakeasy series at the Room 13. That'll be broadcasting on the Chicago for Chicagoans page, not this one. It's 7 o'clock, not 8 o'clock. Mark your calendars well. I thought for today I would do kind of a preview, one of the things that I've been researching while doing it. But before we get started, I just want to show you guys my latest collectible acquisition. The only thing I get an eBay alert for is Muppet Babies animation cells. I'm very picky about which ones I'll get. But one running gag on the show is Gonzo would open the closet door, and behind it, instead of a closet, there'd be like a robot or a dinosaur or a scene from an old silent film. So a Gonzo opening a closet door cell came up on eBay recently. I snapped it up, and Found a background screen grab that I could use as a background and set it up as such. Well, here's Gonzo. Right now it is set so he's looking at a dinosaur coming in, but with a turn of this dial down below, I can make it a scene from Phantom Empire, a film that they used to show quite a bit. It's a 1935 Flash Gordon-style serial with Gene Autry as himself. It is bonkers. Or I can spin it a little the other way, and it's a train coming at him. Or a little bit more Harold Lloyd dangling from a clock. Or landscape from the cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Or Darth Vader's TIE Fighter. Leave it back on the dinosaur. That has been my latest project. Getting that rigged up and framed properly has been taking me the better part of a couple of days. Ran through an X-Acto knife or two, a couple of different frame attempts. But now I'm really happy with it. It actually looks good up on the wall. The trick was having the dial in it. The dial is an old record that I spin down below here. So that has been my arts and crafts for the last couple of days. If you've never seen Phantom Empire 1935, it's kind of hard to sit through, but it is just bonkers. They used to show clips of that on Muppet Babies all the time, like when they went to Planet X. I had no idea that, they had her saying Muppet Babies. In real life, she was saying Gene Autry. But all right, so we're going to talk a little bit. Every time we open the show here, it's almost always either with Benny Goodman at the Congress Hotel or Earl Father Hines at the Grand Terrace Ballroom on Chicago's Great South Side. That's our opening music around here. And just recently, we had our Mystericon at the Congress Hotel, where Benny Goodman played that run of shows in 1936 from the Joseph Urban Room. And one of the cool things was when setting up for Mystericon is finding out exactly where the Joseph Urban Room was. So here's a little video of this. So this is where we had Mystericon, this ballroom that went alongside Congress. Now, if you were to go through the doors here a little bit, just around the bend, this was the Joseph Urban Room on the other side. It's been turned into just regularly a conference room now. Very basic hotel crap nowadays. People just don't go to hotels for high class and culture anymore. For better or for worse. But anyway, this was the Joseph Urban Room. Here it is, full of Mysterians. And here is how it looked back in 1936. Now, Benny Goodman at the time was still a kind of a new phenomenon. He'd been playing around Chicago as a kid, took lessons at his synagogue and took lessons at Hull House, then spent a lot of the 1920s in New York just hopping from band to band, doing some recordings on his own, playing in the Pit and Broadway shows. That style of hot music had kind of gone out of fashion for a bit in the early 1930s. People were more into sweet stuff. But while he was playing around Chicago, one day he was at the Onyx Club, and a guy named John Hammond came up to him. And John said, well, Benny, this stuff may be out of fashion here, but it's really catching on overseas. Why don't you come in and record a little bit? And also he was able to get him Fletcher Henderson's arrangements that Fletcher Henderson needed some cash for and needed to sell. And that is really what made Benny Goodman a star, is playing in 1935 at a place in Los Angeles. This kind of introduced the nation to the swing sound. Meanwhile, early 1936, the Congress Hotel was trying to restore its reputation. It was about a 40-year-old hotel at the time, but it had recently come out that during the 1933 World's Fair, they had a major dysentery epidemic at the Congress Hotel. Texas Guinan, who we have seen on the time travel pub crawls, died of dysentery that she caught at the Congress Hotel due to bad plumbing. And the city had been covering this up. It was I don't want people to know that there's a dysentery epidemic during tourist season. Just like the guy from Jaws or something. So In any case, the Congress was now in 1936 trying to restore their reputation at what had come to be known as a cursed hotel. So they brought in Benny Goodman to play that series of radio shows, and it worked. And one day, now John Hammond was a son of was part of the Vanderbilt family. He was working as a jazz promoter, really just because he didn't need to do anything that actually paid money. Had a car rigged up with a 12-tube radio that could pick up stations from all over the country, and especially liked listening to the Grand Terrace Ballroom, where they would play Earl Father Hines. That mural is still up on the wall in what is now a beauty shop there. But one day he was listening to the Earl Father Hines show and realized that Earl wasn't there that night. His understudy was filling in, a young man named Teddy Wilson. And he was so impressed that he immediately sent for Teddy Wilson to come to New York to record a few trio tracks with Benny Goodman. Now, this was a time... Jazz at the time was really strictly segregated. You know, black and white musicians would maybe jam together informally after hours, sometimes even sneakily record together because nobody could see what they looked like based on an album cover. But they would generally know they couldn't be seen in public together. And John really wanted to change that. He was arguing with Benny, you've got to record with more black musicians. And Benny would say, well, I'd never get another job, and neither would the black musicians if we did that. But finally he persuaded him. For Easter 1936, Benny was being presented once again in the Joseph Urban Room at the Congress Hotel. He had persuaded him to record some trio stuff with him and his drummer Gene Krupa, along with Teddy Wilson, and managed to convince him to do it live at the Congress Hotel in the Joseph Urban Room for the Easter concert in 1936. And not only did he, this was announced in the press that Teddy Wilson was going to be joining the band a little bit for this concert. So during the intermission of the big band stuff, they played as a trio, and it didn't really make a lot of waves at the time. It got mentioned in the press a little bit, but nobody really made a big deal out of it. It was only years later that people started pinpointing this moment as the first major appearance by an integrated jazz group. And shortly thereafter, Benny and John went to Los Angeles to see Lionel Hampton, a kid who got his start playing in the Newsboys band for the Chicago Defender, was now playing vibraphones, joined the band on a more permanent basis, and officially integrated the Benny Goodman Band. This was made them really the first major integrated jazz band at the time, something that started right here in the Joseph Urban Room of the Congress Hotel in downtown Chicago. So, all right. That is just a quick bit, a little bit of a preview of what's going to be going on tomorrow. Not tomorrow, day after tomorrow. I got to get my days in order. Plus, I've got a Midrash class and a doctor's appointment today, and I still got to find another place who will give me 2 root canals. But all right, everybody. So, that is just a little bit of history from the Congress Hotel, something that's going to be worked into the upcoming talk that I've got Thursday night on Chicago for Chicagoans. I also found a really cool early rock and roll connection, connecting rock and roll to a parlor song that has really not been made enough out of, but it's a really cool little bit. Lots of really things. Yes, John Hammond, one night after the show, after the Benny Goodman show, he got out on his car radio and started picking up this kid, Count Basie and Lester Young from Kansas City. Later he would discover Aretha Franklin singing on a demo, took a chance on Bob Dylan based on his singing, not on his writing, then got Bruce Springsteen his record deal. He'd already discovered Billie Holiday singing in a club in Harlem. He's not a Chicago guy, but he figures heavily in the stories of a lot of Chicago musicians, so he'll be coming up. So everybody, thank you very much for joining me. Once again, Thursday night, we'll get a lot more of this sort of thing on the Chicago for Chicagoans live talk at Room 13. I understand it's sold out very quickly, so thanks, everybody. That'll be at 7 p.m. instead of our usual 8, so be here or be square. The square sounds okay to be. Be there or be square. We'll just take it as the usual turn of phrase. So thanks, everybody. We'll be seeing more of you. I never really touched on that before. That when we're listening to this, we're listening to a stream of swing recordings that, over time, a couple of months afterwards, in the same space, would be kind of a landmark in jazz history. So thanks, everybody. And no, Susan, they didn't end up being able to give me the dental work. And Bix is in the draft, but I don't know if I'll really have too much time for him here, as it actually turns out. Yeah, he played with Benny early on. There's so many people that I've got that may or may not actually have time to work in. Right now, I really have no idea how long the talk is going to take, though. So, Thanks, everybody, for joining me. I'm Adam for Mysterious Chicago Tours. I will see you all on Thursday night, I hope. Some of you in person. Until then, stay safe and stay strong. And, of course, if you can, as always, stay spooky, everybody.